Vyāpṛteṣvindriyeṣvātmā vyāpārīvāvivekinām Dṛśyate'bhreṣu dhāvatsu dhāvanniva yathā śaśī. The Atman, observed through the active senses by the non-discriminating people, seems as if the Atman is active in appearance. Just like when the clouds move in the sky, it seems as though the moon is also moving along. In the earlier verse, the witnessship was focused on authority. Witnessship was focused with authority, awe, and respect. In this verse, the same witnessship is seen as if performing the activity, although it is in reality untouched by the activity. Dhāvanniva yathā śaśī. It is twilight, suppose. A group of clouds are flying through the skies. In between them, we see the moon. From a vehicle, sitting on a vehicle, a boy stares at the moon and screams to his father, "Father, look, the moon is chasing us. Will it reach home before us? Let us beat the moon. Quick, quick, quick. Drive fast." The boy perceives the moon to be moving. The passing clouds seems to cover the moon, and one may feel that the moon is running with the clouds or hidden by the clouds, while all the while the moon was neither hidden nor is it moving with the clouds. It is only when one sees the moon with respect to the passing clouds that such illusions occur. The self or Atman is in a similar situation. Although it remains only as a witness of what is going on, yet in the eyes of one who has not learned to discriminate, it appears as if the self itself is acting. For an ignorant person who mistakes the mind and senses as the self appears to be limited. It is only when there is a false cognition of self that there arises misery due to thoughts such as "I am sad, I am happy," etc. But the self, like the moon, is ever blissful and is never the enjoyer or the doer of any actions. It is only the ego that creates this illusion. Hence, for a wise one who discriminates between the reality and the non-duality, for the one who knows the real nature of self, there can never be any miseries. We have learnt in numerous sessions on how consciousness illumines intellect. Even in an Atma Bodha verse earlier, we have learned this, and in Dṛśya Viveka, and so on. The ego of a human being borrows reflected consciousness from the intellect, and it mistakes that it is consciousness by itself or in itself, and it totally ignores the truth that it has only borrowed the consciousness reflected in the intellect, in the mirror intellect, so that the body, the mind, all can be conscious, not consciousness. Going back to the Dṛśya Viveka analogy, the iron ball coming into contact with fire gets lit up and almost appears like a fireball and mistakes itself to be the fire itself. This verse is all about the mistaken notion of the ego that it is consciousness, and thus the ego mistakes all actions done by itself as reality, exactly like the child saw the moon and thought that the moon is moving. Due to the self's proximity to the scene of action, it is viewed as if it is performing the actions. There is a complete transference of doership from the upadhis that are involved in the action to the self, which is independent of these upadhis and who is not affected by these actions. Hence, it is very essential for a seeker to know that all the duality and actions and illusions, all the duality are all only illusions, and the duality is perceived only due to the ego arising or the ignorance arising about one's true nature, and that any actions can never be done by the self, because self is bliss alone, and hence all the actions can never affect self. Aham bhojanam naiva bhojyan na bhokta chidananda rupa shivoham shivoham, said Shankara. On himself, the self-pure consciousness. See, in the example of the boy sitting on a vehicle and himself also he is moving, and he is perceiving that the moon is also moving. How it has to be understood? The boy or a human being with ego brings down consciousness to his limited equipments, body, mind, etc., and thinks that the consciousness is acting, or to be more precise, his body, mind, intellect, his limited identity is itself the consciousness. Just like the iron ball lit up by fire and appearing as a fireball with the iron material hidden within, thinking itself to be the fire itself. Similarly, here it has to be understood that it is not that we think that the consciousness is acting, but it is that we, the limited equipment BMI, are in ourselves the consciousness. We are not able to differentiate between our limited identity and our absolute identity. This has to be very clear. The Atman is not enlivening the senses. The Atman is a presence. It is just an existence. Atman is not even a śaśī. Atman is. Atman is. Atman. The senses are enlivened because they are in association with the Atman. But the I, Atman, does not identify itself with any equipment. Go back to the classic robber example where he is able to steal in the moonlight, taking the aid of the moonlight without the moonlight deliberating to help the robber to give its light, and so that the robber can commit a theft. So how the senses are getting enlivened, how, whether at all the Atman or Brahman ever willed to create and all, they will all be a mystery only, forever and ever. But it has to be taken, understood clearly that the enlivened principle, the limited equipments, can never be the absolute illumining pure consciousness. The self is asanga, unattached, kutastha, unaffected, chitrupa, pure consciousness. Yet, it is seen by the unknowing intellect or non-discriminating intellect, mind, as being the actor itself of all the numerous actions performed by the body and the mind. Let us go through few verses of, in fact, all the verses of Brahmajnanavali composed by Adi Shankara, containing 21 verses. We will start from 1 to and go on to 21. Keep the second to the last, and there is a purpose of keeping the second to the last. It starts like this. He is not giving you the number, but with the gap you have to understand that we are moving from one verse to another verse. The first verse starts like this. The work entitled Brahmajnanavali Mala, by hearing which just once knowledge of Brahman is attained, it enables all to attain liberation. Now we are moving to the third verse and thereafter, third, fourth, fifth, etc. I am eternal, I am pure, I am ever liberated, I am formless, indestructible and changeless. I am of the nature of infinite bliss. Paramananda Rupoham. I am the very self, indestructible and changeless. Aham Yeva Aham Avyaya. I am eternal, I am free from blemish, I am formless, I am indestructible and changeless. I am the nature of supreme bliss. I am the very self, indestructible and changeless. I am pure consciousness. I revel in my own self. I am of the nature of indivisible, concentrated bliss. I am the very self, indestructible and changeless. The last line is repeated. I am the very self, indestructible. Aham eva aham avyaya. I am the indwelling consciousness. I am calm. I am beyond Prakriti, beyond Maya. I am the nature of eternal bliss. Chitananda Rupoham. Paramananda Rupoham. Aham eva aham avyaya. I am the Supreme Self beyond all the categories such as Prakriti, Mahat, Ahankara, etc. As per the Kapila's creation in the flow. I am the Supreme Auspicious One beyond all those in the middle. I am beyond the Maya, and then I am the Supreme Light. I am the very self that goes. I am beyond all different forms. I am of the nature of pure consciousness. I am never subject to decline. I am of the nature of bliss, and goes on. There is neither Maya nor its effects such as body, etc. for me. I am of the same nature and self-luminous. I am the very self, indestructible and changeless. I am beyond the three gunas. I am the witness of even Brahma and others. I am of the nature of infinite bliss. So on. I am the inner controller. I am immutable. I am all-pervading. I am myself, the Supreme Self. I am devoid of parts. I am actionless. I am the Self of all. I am the primordial one. I am the ancient, eternal one. I am the directly intuited self. He is skipping the last line of each verse. Okay. Paramananda Rupam. That line he is skipping. It is coming with all the verses. I am the witness of all pairs of opposites, all dvanda. I am immovable. I am eternal. I am the witness of everything. I am the very self, indestructible and changeless. I am a mass of awareness and of consciousness. I am not a doer nor an experiencer. I am the very self, indestructible and changeless. I am without any support, and I am the support of all. I have no desires to be fulfilled. I am free from the three kinds of afflictions, those in the body, those from other beings, and those caused by higher powers, for which we pray 3 times Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. I am different from the gross, subtle and causal bodies. I am the witness of the 3 states of consciousness. There are 2 things which are different from each other. They are the seer and the seen. The seer is Brahman and the seen is Maya. This is what all Vedanta proclaims. He who realizes after repeated contemplation that he is a mere witness, he alone is liberated. He is the enlightened one. This is proclaimed by Vedanta. The pot, the wall, etc. are all nothing but clay. Likewise, the entire universe is nothing but Brahman. This is proclaimed by Vedanta. Brahman is real, the universe is mithya. It cannot be categorized as either unreal or unreal. That is why it is mithya. It is not only unreal. It is mithya. It is an illusion. The jiva is Brahman itself and not different. Jivo Brahmaiva para. This should be understood as the correct Shastra. This is proclaimed by Vedanta. I am the auspicious one, the inner light and the outer light, the indwelling light higher than the highest, the light of all lights, self-luminous, the light that is the self. And now coming to the second verse, which directly relates to today's Atma Bodha verse. Asangoham, asangoham, asangoham punah punah. Satchidananda rupoham aham eva aham avyayah. Unattached am I. Unattached am I. Unattached am I. Ever free from attachment of any kind. I am of the nature of Sat, existent Chid, consciousness, Ananda, bliss. I am the very self, indestructible and ever unchanging. The iron ball, howsoever it may think that it is the fire itself, it can never be fire. Today, tomorrow, day after, and forever. The fire is only the fire. In Kenopanishad, the Acharya describes Atman as the eye of the eye, ear of the ear, mind of the mind, prana of the prana, etc. It is true that the self enlivens the physical eye so that the physical eye sees, but the Atman, the eye of the eye in itself, has no association, asangoham, no association with the physical instruments. In the earlier verse, Shankara said, Atman is the witness. He transcends the awareness of even existing as a witness when he says, I am unattached in this verse. It is you who attribute nature to me, identify me with your body equipment and think that you are the limited jiva, the ego, the BMI is in itself Chaitanya, consciousness, which is acting. Whereas, maybe I am illumining you by reflecting myself in and through your mirror intellect, but at my absolute transcendental state, I have nothing to do with this reflection, I have nothing to do with the reflected, and I have nothing to do with all the operations of your body, mind, senses, upon getting the reflection of me through your buddhi, mirror intellect. Asangoha, asangoha. And the call of this verse is for all of us to exist as that asangoha, totally unattached, nothing to do with whatever our BMI is acting or thinking or doing or whatever. Hari Om.